You get the benefits of last year's mistakes. So we're missing 3 or 4 people today. They're missing a lot. We've done everything, so they're prepared to take the test, but you're going to be getting a lot of little sample items that are definitely going to show up. This was something that last year people forgot. When you multiply or divide by a negative, what happens to the symbol? Symbol reverses. So in the original, problem had that. It ended up switching because we multiplied or divided. In this case, we actually divided. Example 2, we've got x greater than or equal to 4. We did these the other day. Example 3 should be infinite solutions. Why is it infinite? What kind of statement did we get? If you get a true statement, that's one of our exceptions. What about no solutions? What happened? We got a false statement. Practice, practice, practice. We had y less than negative 14. We had infinite solutions. And we had x greater than 8. Four, 5, and 6. It's okay to have decimals. By the time we reach the end of the year, all of your problems will be decimal and fraction problems. There aren't very many problems in real life that are whole numbers. If you had negative 1/2 or negative 0.5, both are correct. It's okay to have your variable on the right-hand side, but you got to be ready if your answer looks like this, or all of those are potential answers. What you have to be careful of is what shows up on a multiple choice test. You could end up getting this as an answer. You work through the problem, you get that. But the answers might look like this. Maybe they put the x on the left. Just make sure that the symbol is pointing towards the same thing. This is pointing at x. Is this pointing at x? They mean the same thing. Make sure that you know how to jump between all the different forms of the problem. Like number 6. You might see 21/4. That's as reduced as that's going to get. But it's probably easier to find the number on the number line if you're looking at it as a decimal, 5.25. Don't round unless you have to. Don't round unless I ask you to. Don't have earbuds in when the red light's on. Talking to Crystal also. Just put hers away. 7, 8, 9. Infinite solutions. M less than 10, and then no solutions for the last one. As we move through the year, you're going to see less and less problems like this where you're just handed the equation or the inequality. You're going to see a lot more questions where you're translating word problems like the last 2. Take a look at the last page. This is what your inequalities should have looked like. 5 minus 6 times a number is more than 4 times a number plus 45. Your example 6 might look different than mine. You might have 1/2 x plus 2 greater than 27. you might have 2 plus 1/2 x greater than 27. All of those are right. It takes me a long time to correct this second test because all of these are correct, and you have to learn how to jump in between. You might be doing your SOL test and come up with this, but maybe the SOL test has this in the multiple choice answer. You've got to learn that that's the same exact thing. X over 2 really has a 1 right there, and that's the same as 1/2 x. Lots of different ways of writing the same exact thing. The work we did for this the other day is already in a video that's online on SchoolFusion. You go to the right-hand side of SchoolFusion, Unit 2 videos, and everything we did last class is on a little video. So the people who missed, who else missed besides Franklin and Sharissa? Anybody else? Watch those videos. Go online. That's what you should do over the weekend to get ready for the test. That's inequality answers. Property practice. Remember I said that properties were going to show up again? This is a long problem. You're not going to see a problem like this on the test. So we're not going to do this entire thing at the same time. But you will see a couple of the lines used. Wait for directions. I'm going to go online.
Shut up.
Please circle the first 2 lines. Please circle the first 2. As soon as I start talking, gotta be listening. You guys will have plenty of time to chat when you are working on your homework. You're not going to have to fill in everything. What will be typical on the test is you'll be asked to look at 2 lines. Circle what's different. What's different from line 1 to line 2? Does anything change here?
Yes.
From 6 plus x, 6 plus x.
Oh, no.
Nothing on the left side. But what happens over here?
It's about 5x.
This goes here, this goes here. Do that. Show me somehow what's different. The 5 moved there, the 2 moved over there. Then write down in parentheses what happened. Well, there was a switch. But switch is not going to get you any credit because we want the technical term. Look up above in the box which property is actually happening. What do we really call a switch situation? Raise hands. See, Mariah? Commutative property of what? Commutative property of addition. Now, sometimes you'll have choices like you do on this page, other times you do not. You need to memorize these. You have a worksheet someplace in your notes that lists all of the proof of the properties and various terminology that you need to memorize. Is that one pretty easy? Something switches, that's commutative property. You just have to be careful that you're choosing the right operation. Jump down to line 5 and 6. Circle these two. Circle,
What the heck, why?
circle, or underline. Do something to show yourself what's different. What's different from line 5 to line 6?
There's a 2 at line 6.
The 2x, yeah.
Circle those two. The 3x minus x became 2x. What do we call, very good. When we have something where we have like terms, we use the very general terminology substitution. In parentheses, write down replace. If you notice that you are replacing something and you can't use any of the other properties, we're talking substitution. Put phones away, please. Red lights on. So if you're confused and you're not sure exactly what's going on, substitution is a good thing to put in there. How about 10 and 11? What is happening? What changed from line 10 to line 11? The 4 didn't change. This changed. Now, if you put substitution down, that's too general. As soon as zeros and ones start showing up, now you've probably got a very specific property. What kind of identity?
Addition.
And on this paper, they're calling it additive, I think. Is it additive? Yep, additive identity property. Jump down to line 13 and 14. Figure out what the change is. We have a 2 and we have a 2, so nothing happened there. But somehow, this 1/2 and this 2 turned into a 1. The x did not change. What do we call it when we have that type of operation and then you end up with a 1? All right, it's inverse, but what kind of inverse? What's happening? What operation is occurring here? All right. Do they say multiplication or multiplicative on here? I personally would take either word, but just be aware that you could have multiplicative or multiplication. And what else? What property? Inverse. The inverse is actually the 1/2 and the 2. One is a flipped version of the other. Instead of saying that it's a flipped version, we just say that it's inverse. So we're just applying technical names to things you already do. And you got to do a little memorization. You think you can do some problems like this on the test? That's our property practice for today. You already have study guides 1 and 2. They were one-page deals. If you weren't here last class, before the end of class, get study guide 2 from me. Study guide 3, we're not doing everything that's on here. So don't start until I give you some directions. You can check it out.
What's it, Nathan?
20 seconds. The ones I need you to work on. I need you to do numbers 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10. Right now, work on 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10. If you don't know how to do something, move on to the next question. You should at least be able to now do questions 9 and 10, which are the property questions at the bottom. But try 4, 5, and 7. Number 4, I'm showing you because I'm going to give you a shortcut that maybe you've seen before, maybe you haven't. You know that everything we go over today is probably going to show up on the test, especially things that are labeled study guide number 3. You know that that's important. While you're doing those 5, let me take attendance. Do what you can. If you're not sure about something, move on because we will be going over this. I'm going to give you a shortcut. If you see a situation, as soon as I start talking, gotta be listening. If you see a fraction equal to a fraction, it doesn't matter how big the fraction is. We have x plus 4 over x minus 2 equal to a small fraction. That's a little bit bigger. We're calling this a proportion. Anybody remember shortcut for dealing with a proportion situation? Have you ever seen this before? Write that down. What we are doing is we are shortening up, doing a few steps into one step. The idea is that we don't want to deal with the fractions. By doing this, you eliminate all the fractions. You write down exactly what's going on first. The 4 is multiplying what's up here. So I write down that. 4 times x plus 4. If there was only one thing there, I'd only be multiplying those two things. But since there's more, what property is happening? Distributive property. Put an equal sign down. Then you write down what's in the other little loop. You've got a 1. What is it multiplying?
X minus.
Put that into parentheses. You end up with a new equation. Do you see any fractions there?
No.
No, it makes it a lot easier to deal with. You can only do this if we're dealing with a fraction equal to a fraction. Now take care of your distributive property. What's 1 times anything? Whatever you get, whatever you start with. Help me out, what do you do when you have x's on both sides?
Take the smaller one and put it over there.
You can actually choose whichever one you want. I recommend going to the smaller one. That is 3x plus 16 equals -2. On the test, I recommend that you circle the sides with the variable that you put in the wall. Am I going to be looking for it? No. I just need to see some work. Don't have an answer down with no work. But I'm not going to see as much, I don't need to see as much work as I needed to see on the quiz. I've got 3x equal to -18. How do you get rid of the 3? X equals -6. Check my arithmetic. When can I do this shortcut?
We have a question for this.
Which we're calling a proportion. What was the next question I asked you to do?
5.
5? Don't do this. I'm doing this on the board. If I gave you that, would you be able to do it?
Yes.
Could you do -3 times some parentheses? That's what you should be thinking in your mind. You should be ignoring everything else, concentrating on that. That's a -3. -3 times 4 is a -12. But we do have the rest of the problem to do. So write down the rest. Put in your wall. Don't do anything until you've done all of your like terms. Take care of these two. What is 7 minus 12?
Negative.
It doesn't matter where I place that -5. I could put -3w minus 5. As long as it's a negative, you can put it anywhere you want. What do you do with the w's and the 3w's? Which one do you want to deal with? It's up to you.
Or put the W on the side of the
So you want to do this.
that.
I could have done it the other way. You'll still get the same answer. Just be careful of your positives and negatives. This goes away. This is -4w minus 5 equals -7.
Well, what?
-3w minus w gives me -4w. How do I get that w all by itself? What does that give me? That gives me -4w equal to, what is this? -2. I divide by -4. What's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. This equals 2/4, but you're probably not going to see 2/4 as an answer. What is that reduced? 1/2. That is probably what you'd see on a multiple choice test, 1/2. If you don't remember how to reduce things, use the calculator. Put in 2 divided by 4, you'll get the decimal 0.5. Then math key. The math key will get you to the fractions and equals. Number 7. Underline the word perimeter. If I'm doing a perimeter problem today, you know a perimeter problem will be on the test. We don't know a whole lot right now. You can get partial credit by doing this. But anytime somebody does the partial credit correct for a perimeter problem, they're gonna get the whole problem right. Because that's the hard part, is figuring out what your variable is gonna be.
Wait, why is there a video top?
Because the length is 3 times the width. Why didn't I put an L? Is it harder to do a problem with 2 variables? We want to deal with 1 variable. Since the length is based on the width is going to be our variable. I didn't need to use W. I could have said x and 3x. It doesn't really matter what I choose. If this is a rectangle and I call that 3W, what's the bottom?
3W.
Write it in. If that's W, what's this?
Okay.
If you can make that drawing, then you can do the rest of the problem. How do you find a perimeter? That's area. What do you do with it?
Oh, wait, I mean, 2L plus W.
Since we're not using L, all we need to do is this, right? Isn't perimeter just adding up the outside?
Yeah.
What is the perimeter in this problem?
96 inches.
So you already know that. There's your equation. You have to make up the variables. This is why you learn algebra, not so somebody can hand you an equation. It's so that you can make your own equation and figure out a missing solution. How many W's do I have on the left-hand side?
Oh, 8, yeah.
8W equals 96. What's in front of these W's?
1.
Put a 1 there if that helps you. 1W, 1W, 3W, 3W. How do you get rid of that 8?
5 by 8.
Both sides. W is 12. Go back. Did we want W?
Yes. Oh, no, we wanted the length.
What's the length? That's this. So I have to do some substitution. 3W is actually 3 times 12, which equals 36. That's my answer. I have to put this W in here. I have to put the 12 in there. Be careful. I might ask for the width. I might ask for the length. You just have to know what we're looking for. Box in your answer, as always, on all tests. What symbol is this?
An equal sign.
Equal sign. You will have perimeter problems for inequalities, and you have perimeter problems with equal signs. They're different. They're going to be in different sections of the test. Don't do the same thing for each problem. When we get to study guide 4, you'll see what I'm talking about. Jump down. Properties. Whoa. Question number 9 wants 3 to 4. Circle. Circle the difference. What is being changed or what is being put into here that wasn't there before from line 3 to line 4?
The plus 3.
Circle that. That's the only thing that's different. What do we call that when we are putting that type of operation on both sides? Well, what operation is it?
Addition property.
This is addition property of equality. Because, is it happening on both sides?
Yeah.
If it's happening on both sides, it has to do with the fact that it's equal. And we had to do from line 8 to 9. The only thing that changed, the 8 and the 1/2 did not change. This right here turned into a 1. What operation? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. Put a little dot there. What's happening?
Really? Boy.
Inverse.
Look at it this way.
If you see flipped versions of a number, 1/2 is a flipped version of 2. That's inverse. And what was the result? The result was the number 1. Anytime 1s and 0s show up, you probably have a very specific property you should be thinking about. Set aside study guide 3. Here's study guide 4. This one we're doing together.
All of it. Yeah. Robert.
It's good shit.
No.
At the top of this paper, write down. Some people get intimidated when a whole bunch of formulas show up and there aren't any numbers. All that means is that you're going to end up doing less work. You still follow the same rules. You're still following the same rules, but you can't really do anything with the letters because they're not like terms, so you end up just going through the motions of the steps. Underline or circle wherever it says 4. That's the letter you want to focus on. It could be anything. They could have told me to focus on the N. They could have told me to focus on the R. This one could have been A, B, or C. They just chose X. Pay attention to what that number is, or what that letter is. Sorry. You're still going to set up your wall. At the very bottom, write down the variable that they're telling you to focus on. They're telling you to focus on X in this case. Which side is the X on? Circle. Circle that side. That's where you want to focus your attention. And if you look over on the sideboard, this will be up here for the whole year, because this is the most important thing you're learning, is to get the variable alone. Don't worry about an answer. Just do that, isolate X, get it alone, and the answer will fall out. Look at what's in the bubble. We've got too much stuff there. What do we need to get rid of so that it's just X?
Negative R.
How do you get rid of a minus R? Write it down. What happens to the R's?
They get crossed out.
Go out. I can't do anything with the P and the R because they're not like terms, so I just write it down. P plus R. You're doing less work for this type of problem. What's left on this side? We've still got NX there. We're almost there. I need to get from that to that. How do I get rid of the N? Divide by N. That gets rid of that. Now, do we only have X on this side? I can't do anything with that answer. That is the answer. You're done. All you are doing with these problems is creating a formula for X. If you take a chemistry course or a physics course, maybe X is temperature, and now you have a formula for temperature. Maybe that's pressure. Maybe that's gravity or some force. You will do this in your other classes. When we're completely done, we're going to do a practice problem on the back that's directly from physics. You could see this problem this way, though. Both of those mean the same thing. You could have one fraction, or you could separate it into two separate fractions. Either one is okay. I would accept either answer. Anytime you have a number of things on the top and one thing on the bottom, you can split it up into separate fractions. It means the same thing. You might see something like this second problem. We're going to rewrite this so it's a little bit bigger. Put your wall in. What formula or what variable are they asking us to focus on? X. Which side is the X on? Circle it. Put an X down here. Show where you want to go. You want to get to the point where the X is totally alone. The best way to do that is to get rid of the number on the bottom first. What's happening with the A? It's being divided. What's the opposite of division? So next to it, I'm going to put this. Times A. You always do the opposite of what is happening. Put times A over here. Why did I do that? What's going to happen to the A's?
It's gonna get crossed out.
That's the whole point. You don't have to worry about doing something on that side. You just cancel it out. Can I do anything with this? You just rewrite it. CA. You are doing less work with these problems. They are not, don't let them intimidate you. What's left on this side? I still don't have X alone. How do I get it by itself? Plus B, plus B. B's go away. I can't do anything with this because they're not like terms, so I just write down CA plus B. I'm done. I've created a formula for for X. In another course, maybe that stands for distance. Maybe it stands for time. I've just created a formula for whatever that variable is. You will do this a million times in chemistry and physics if you take those courses eventually. Anybody in a chemistry course? We just did a perimeter problem. What do you always do if you have a perimeter problem?
Picture.
Draw a picture. This one is a rectangle. Do we want two variables? No. That's something we'll get into in chapter 5 or 6. Right now we want to deal with one variable. Put an X here. I'm choosing that to be X and not the length because they're telling me the length is this. This is why we did those translation problems in chapter 1. How do you write down 4 less than triple the width? What does triple mean? What number? 3. So if I triple that, I'm gonna have 3x. How about less than? What operation?
Need,
Subtract. And what number are we subtracting?
4.
4. Notice the order. Even though the 4 is there, it's being subtracted. Look at the sideboard. If you ever get confused about the ordering, it's right up here. I'll leave this up all year long. If you have 3 less than 100, you don't do 3 minus 100. You do 100 minus 3. That's what we're doing here. We don't do 4 minus 3x. We do 3x minus 4. Questions? No? If that's x, what's here? If that's 3x minus 4, what's here? What did we say you do for perimeter? You can either multiply each of these times 2, or you can just add it all together. X plus 3x minus 4 plus 3x minus 4. The problem has to give you something. What's the actual perimeter? You got a bunch of stuff added up. What's the like terms here? How many x's do I have? 1, 1, then a 3, then a 3. What is that? 8x. How many minus 4? Minus 8, and all that equals 80. If you can draw this, then this is pretty easy. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. 8x equals 88. What's my final step?
11.
A little division by 8. X equals 11. What is x?
No.
What is this called?
The width.
That's the width. This is the length. So have I answered the question yet? I need the length. So what do I have to do with this 11? I have to put it into here. What is 3 times 11 minus 4?
29.
29. That is our answer. That. None of this is difficult. What's difficult is putting it all together. Making a diagram. Writing down 3x minus 4 based on this. Knowing that since it's perimeter, we add it all up. Then once you get your answer, knowing that that's not actually the answer that they want. That's the width, you still have to find the length, and you have to substitute that in. You can do all of those steps. And that's what's required on the SOL test since about 4 years ago. It's no longer one-step problems. It's 2, 3, 4-step problems, and it's all or nothing. You either get it right or you get it wrong. What is this symbol right here? Equals. You will see perimeter problems with equations, and you will see perimeter problems like this. Underline the word maximum and circle the word only. These are key words. If you see those key words showing up, you're probably going to be doing an inequality. And what's an inequality? That's less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So you know you're going to be using one of those symbols in this problem. What's the only number we have as far as the fencing is concerned? 90 for the total fencing. Can I have more than 90 feet in this problem?
No.
I only have 90 feet. Could I have less? So you actually have to read what's in front of you and make a determination as to what you're going to use. I have 90, so I can use 90. I can have that or equal to. Since I only have 90, I can't go above that. I got to have something less than it. Draw a picture. This is still a rectangle. The only difference is now we're dealing with an inequality. What's the width?
Probably about
Even better. They give me a number for that. I'm doing less work here. Do I know what L is, or the length?
no.
Put it in the drawing. You can put an X there, you can put an L there, whatever you want to put for the variable. A little bit, every problem's a little bit different. This one doesn't equate the width with the length, it's just a separate variable. What did we say we do to figure out perimeter? What do I do with all these sides?
Adam.
Add them up. L plus 5 plus 5. Some people can do this in their heads. What's L plus L?
L. 2L.
2L. What's 5 plus 5? 10. How did I know that this was a perimeter problem, even though perimeter is not mentioned? What word tells me that it's perimeter?
The width.
Fence. Where does a fence go? It goes on the outside. You've got to make a determination that you're looking at a perimeter problem. It's talking about fence, it's talking about perimeter. So put the word perimeter right next to that. Can you solve 2L plus 10 less than or equal to 90? I think you can. There's your wall. How do I get rid of that 2? How do I cancel? L less than or equal to 40. That's great. That's nice, but it's not answering the question because they want to know the maximum length of the fence. This is saying L could be less than or equal to 40. So what's the biggest that L could be?
40.
40. That's what you're going to write. Max length equals 40. That is your answer. This just gives you an indication that it could be less. It could be 39, it could be 38, it could be 37. But the biggest that it could be is 40.
Wait, so that's what we have to do for our weekend, right?
That's it. What is the maximum length of the fence? Max length equals 40. Done. Yep. On the back of this paper, we're going to do a practice question from physics. Turn your paper over. Put P equals R times T. The problems we did on the front were made up. They really don't have any relation to real life on that front page. But this has to do with physics. Anybody know what D stands for?
Distance.
Distance. And how about R and T?
Rate and time.
Rate and time. Rate times time. You are going to come across problems where you're going to have to figure out time or rate and not distance. Right now, you just have a formula for distance. So what if I said, I want a formula for t? That's exactly the same form as the top two questions on the previous page. They wanted for x. On this one, I want for t. So you put your wall in, you put t all by itself. How am I going to get T all by itself. Divide by R. I'm done. Now, if I'm in a physics class, I now have a formula for time. I know it's distance divided by the rate. You will do this countless times in your upper level science courses. You'll have a formula, but you want to figure out something else in the formula. Now you can do it. You isolate the variable. We'll be coming back to this countless times. I go to the chemistry department and the physics department, I say, do you have questions like this? They give me the questions, I bring them in here, I show them. So that's not the first time that you've seen it when you go to those classes. On the back of this, you might want to write the test blueprint that I'm about to put down. I'm going to tell you exactly how many questions and how many sections are on this test, because it's right here, right in front of me. Copy down test blueprint. Section 1. Look at the front of this. Does this look familiar? This is the last page of your last test. If you do better on this, I change those grades. And that will happen. This counts for this quarter. So the first one's like terms. I have to pass back some of those corrections today. I have them right here.
Yeah.
So when I give this back to you, you look at that last page of your Unit 1 test. That's what the first page of the next test looks like. You'll get those today. There will be 5 questions on that section. Number 2, distribution in like terms. Same thing, but you got to do the distributive property first. 5 more questions. I'll do this in blue because the blue stuff is really the newer stuff. That is a repeat of what we did at the end of Unit 1. Next page. Equation solving. One variable. What does that look like? Well, that looks like everything we've been doing with equation solving. You might see properties in this section. Did we do some practice property questions today? Yep. You might see things from study guides 1, 2, 3, and 4. The last study guide was the last worksheet that you are writing on right now. It didn't say study guide 4, but that's what it is. Look those over. There are some very specific questions like consecutive even. Consecutive even was on study guide. Study guide 1. The study guide is online. If you look in the center of the School Fusion page, there's a file that says Unit 2 answers. All of the answers to all of the study guides are in there. On the right-hand side of the screen is Unit 2 videos. Click on that. There's a couple videos. This video that I'm making right now will be on there. You can go back and take a look at any of the problems that we've done today. Did we just do some perimeter problems? Anything we've done is fair game. Anything we've done is a possible question. Does this look like this section might be a little bit longer? This will have 10 questions. Section 4, we do more equation solving. But this time with many variables. Well, what does that look like? Turn your paper over. It looks just like what we did for the first two problems on the other side. You got a lot of variables, you got to find one of them. This is what we just did with the D equals R times T. There will only be 5 of those. What's the only thing I haven't written down yet that we've done?
Oh,
Everything in here says equation, equation. Didn't we do inequalities? Maybe. Inequalities. What was in there? Well, did we have number lines? What does an open circle mean?
Greater than or less than.
All right. Open circle was close to. What about a closed circle?
Greater than or equal to and less than or equal to.
Open circle, closed circle when we're dealing with the number lines. So you can see you got some number line graphing that you might have to do. You might see some properties in here. We can still do properties with inequalities. You might see perimeter. That will be another 10 questions. How many questions are on the algebra SOL? Anybody know?
108.
That's too high. 60. 10 of them don't count. You don't know which ones count and which ones don't. So they actually only grade you on 50. The other 10 questions are sample questions to figure out if they should be on next year's test. Out of the 50, you need to get about 30 of them right. What's 30 out of 50? That's a 60. Can you get a 60? If you do what I ask you to do all year long and your attendance is pretty good, you're going to pass the SOL. But you got to be here. You got to keep up with what we're doing. Those are the 5 sections. How much does all that add up to? How many questions? 35. So is that more or less than the SOL? Less. Keep that in mind as you're doing it. I need to give you tests that are this big because eventually you're going to take a test that has 60 questions on it. This will take you probably about an hour, but you get the whole period on Monday. You can take an hour and a half if you need an hour and a half. If you don't look at anything between now and Monday, you don't have a shot at passing this test. You need to look at all the little test guides that I gave you. Sarissa and Franklin, you need this one. And that should be the first thing you do is maybe get those notes from somebody right now. But it's on the video. If you want to look at the videos. If you look over at the bottom here, this is what we have left. Your homework. Well, what is that? Your homework is finish properties. practice. I gave you a worksheet that looked like this. We did four of them. Do the rest. Practice up. We also did this worksheet. I told you to do 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10. Now do the rest. Finish study guide 3. Corrections. I'm going to pass back corrections. If you have not done your Unit 1 corrections, I'm going to let you know today. We'll make sure that you get them done by Monday. Notebooks. I'm going to collect your notebooks on Monday. The first thing I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to shake it a little bit and see if anything falls out. If nothing falls out, then the maximum you can get is 100. If things fall out, then the score starts going down. All that means is that you put it in a pocket or you put it in the 3 rings that you got, whatever you have. All I'm looking for is that you are saving all of the corrections, all of the old quizzes, all of the old tests, and all these study guides. They should be all together in one place. That's all I'm looking for on Monday. As long as it's neat and organized and there. Yeah. Okay. I'll just be calling your name during the test and taking a quick look at it. Just, you can take the room and dustpan. Clean the streets. So for this study guide, you are doing numbers 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. Work with each other. Try these out right now while you've got the time. You got about a half hour here. Got too many people out right now. Yes, it is.
No.
Ever tweet on Twitter?